and Jack Bishop in the tasting lab. Discover the secrets of America's foremost food testers and tasters today on America's Test Kitchen.
Today on America's Test Kitchen, Doc visits Dirt Candy in New York City to learn about vegetarian cooking. Then, Becky shows Chris how to make a great vegetable tart at home. Next, Adam reviews vegetable cleavers in the equipment corner. Finally, Bridget uncovers the secrets to the ultimate farmhouse vegetable soup. That's all right here on America's Test Kitchen.
America's Test Kitchen is brought to you by DCS by Fisher & Paykel. America's cooks rely on innovation and culinary precision. DCS by Fisher & Paykel, offering premium indoor and outdoor kitchen appliances.
And by Kohler, inspiring home chefs to create a professional-level kitchen with innovative sinks, faucets, and cook centers. Kohler.
Diamond Crystal Salt for the professional chef and those who want to cook like one.
From our family to yours, fresh from the field, Foxy organic vegetables.
Cooking.com, an online retailer for the kitchen enthusiast. If it's not in your kitchen, try ours.
Wente Vineyards, family owned, estate grown, sustainably farmed since 1883. Lee Kum Kee, providing authentic Chinese sauces for the past 125 years.
We're here at Dirt Candy, a vegetarian restaurant in the East Village of Manhattan, and we're going to talk to Amanda Cohen, who's the chef here, about how to cook with things that grow in the dirt.
My whole career I've cooked vegetarian food, and I really felt that there was something missing in the city. There really are restaurants dedicated to fish and restaurants dedicated to steak, and there's not a single one that just celebrates vegetables.
I think the public generally thinks of vegetarian food as sort of punishment food.
Right.
So when you're creating a new dish, sort of, what do you think about?
One of the first dishes we had on the menu was our carrot risotto. It was this bright, orange, sweet, savory risotto that had carrot curls and carrot dumplings, and we used the carrot in all different kinds of forms. And what I was really trying to bring out for people was carrots can be sweet, and it's a good sweetness. It's not a dessert sweetness, but it's the savory sweetness that really works.
For a carnivore like me, this vegetarian food is incredibly satisfying.
Vegetables are kind of like the Wild West. There are no rules. There's nothing has been done before. You can't go wrong. You can only go right. You know, we've had people who I've been inspired by your carrot risotto, and I made a beet risotto instead with sort of the techniques you've talked about. And we're like, that's awesome. I'm always like, wow, you cook at home. I don't, but that's good for you.
Well, at this point, I am really ready to go into the kitchen and see you make something.
Good. So we have a bunch of stuff for you to try, and I think the first thing is going to be our tomato tart.
Excellent.
So this is our tomato tart. We have a tomato cake with a smoked feta. This is cabbage. So we start with our Brussels sprouts and roasted choy sum. It's mixed in a walnut dressing. And this is grilled chard. And on top of that, we have our charred gnocchi.
Eat. That is so good.
You get that real sort of charred, intense taste.
You do. It's this caramelized
Caramelized yogurt
Mm.
on top. We pressure cook for about 90 minutes.
And so many textures. And now, the world of cabbage.
The world of cabbage in one bowl. It's 10
Wow.
different kinds of cabbage.
That's incredible.
It's not a camera-friendly dish.
No.
Not a good first date dish either.
No. Oh, wow. This is a...
That's choy sum. If you order a plate of Chinese greens in a Chinese restaurant,
That's
what it's going to be. So instead of stir-frying it, we actually roast it. We want you to have a bite of something here and be like, I didn't know it could taste this good. I didn't know this is what a tomato was. I've had it in a salad before. I've never had it like this. I've never had it pop in my mouth.
I would say you've succeeded. Every single one of these dishes makes you think about the vegetable in a new way. The question now, Chris, is can the Test Kitchen succeed in meeting the challenge and bringing vegetarian cooking to a new level? Are you ready to step it up?
That would be just like Doc to throw me a challenge like that. I've been to that restaurant, Dirt Candy, and the cooking is fairly sophisticated.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do what all good chief executives do.
What's that?
I'm giving you the challenge. So you can do something as exquisite as the kind of food they cook.
I can do it.
Okay.
I accept the challenge.
Good. I can't, so you can do it.
I know.
Thanks.
All right. We're going to make this great vegetable tart. So the first thing we need to do is prepare the dough. I have 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm adding a 1/2 cup of whole wheat flour. We want a nice hearty dough to complement the vegetables, and this will give a nice nutty taste as well as a hearty, slightly coarse texture, coarse in a good way. Tablespoon of sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of salt. So we're just going to pulse this 2 or 3 times. We just want to get this mixed together. Okay. Now we're adding 10 tablespoons of butter. This is chilled. It's cut into 1/2-inch pieces. And we'll pulse that 10 times. We want the butter not to get completely dispersed, but we want about pea-sized chunks in there, so 10 pulses should do it. Now we'll add some cold water. This is 7 tablespoons. And then I'm also adding a teaspoon of white vinegar, and that's going to help to keep the dough nice and tender. We'll just fold this together. So you can see this dough is really shaggy looking. There's actually quite a bit of dry, unhydrated flour in there. So instead of working the dough mechanically, we're going to put it in the fridge and let that happen slowly. That'll limit the gluten development, so we'll have an exceptionally tender dough. We'll just pat it together a little bit. And I know that doesn't look like most pie dough looks.
No, it looks terrible.
It does look like a mistake,
It
doesn't
does look like a mistake.
Yeah, but trust me, this is the way it's supposed to look.
That's what you always say, is trust me. Okay,
Hey,
I'll trust you.
Have I ever let you down?
No.
No. And I'll put this in the fridge for about 45 minutes.
Okay. So you notice that vinegar was added to the dough in order to tenderize it, and here's why that works. When flour and water get together, the 2 proteins, gliadin and glutenin, form. They get together, bond, and create gluten. That happens because the dough is fairly neutral in pH. That is, there are negative ions and positive ions, about equally distributed. Opposites attract, they get together. When you add vinegar, you get a lot of hydrogen ions. Those are positively charged. So now all of a sudden there's more positive than negative. That means there's less attraction, and therefore less gluten gets developed. That means the dough will be easier to work. It won't snap back, and also you get a more tender dough when it's baked.
So the dough's been in the fridge for 45 minutes. So you can see it's still pretty crumbly. It has started to come together a little bit. We're going to roll this out. We want it to roll into an 11 by 8-inch rectangle. And we take a bench scraper. We're going to fold the bottom third up, just like a business letter. Fold the top third over. Turn this counterclockwise. Then we're just going to repeat that 2 more times.
Okay.
And then repeating what we did before, folding the bottom third up, bringing the top part, turning it counterclockwise. And still, as I work the dough, you can see some nice big butter pieces in there. And that 1 more time, folding the bottom part up first, bringing the top third over. And for this last one, we're going to fold it over 1 more time, create a 4-inch square. And then we'll wrap that in plastic wrap. And we'll put this one into the fridge as well. 45 minutes, or you could do it for up to 2 days. So it's time to prepare the filling for the tart. And it's a shiitake mushroom and leek filling. Shiitake mushroom stems are very, very tough. You don't want to eat them, so I just took those off. And then we'll slice these up nice and thin. We'll cook the shiitakes in the microwave for 3 to 5 minutes. We just want them to wilt down and become tender. So while those are in the oven, let's get started on the leeks. If you want to give me some medium heat there. I have a tablespoon of olive oil. And we want that just to start to shimmer. I have a pound of leeks that I sliced up, and I washed these really thoroughly. You have to be really careful with leeks. They can be incredibly dirty, so you have to give them a couple rinses. So the leeks go in, and I have a teaspoon of chopped fresh thyme. Okay, microwave just went off, so we'll keep cooking these leeks. I'm going to put the cover on. They cook for 5 to 7 minutes, just until they start to turn golden brown.
Okay. Still a medium heat or lower?
Still medium heat. And we're going to stir them occasionally.
Okay.
So I'll go get the mushrooms. So we'll let these drain for a minute while the leeks finish cooking, because they throw off a lot of liquid. It's been about 7 minutes. Let me put these mushrooms into a bowl, and if you want to check on the leeks there, you can actually dump them into my bowl here. See how they got a little bit brown on the edges. They're nice and tender. This is creme fraiche. We don't want to add too much liquid to this. You don't want the filling to be too soggy, or our dough will become soggy. Tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I'm just going to season that with some salt and pepper. And our filling is done. So the dough was in the fridge for 45 minutes, and now it's been out of the fridge for another 15 minutes, so it can soften up a little bit. I'm using quite a bit of flour. I'm going to use up to a 1/4 cup to dust the work surface here. We're going to roll this into a 14-inch circle. You can see the dough has totally come together now.
Yeah, it looks vastly better.
So I'm just going to round off the edges here so we have a nice circle. We want a 14-inch circle. And this is a rustic tart. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now we're just going to transfer this to a baking sheet that I have lined with parchment paper. Now we're going to cut some holes in the dough. This will prevent it from puffing up too much while it's cooking. So I'll cut one little hole in the center, and then we'll do 4 more around that. So now I have a teaspoon of oil, olive oil. I'm just going to brush the dough with the oil. Okay, so half of our filling onto the dough, and I want to leave a 2-inch border around the edge. We're going to fold the edges over. And now for even more flavor, I have 3 ounces of gorgonzola. Just sprinkle half of it on top here. And then we'll put the rest of our mushroom filling on top. Now I'll add the rest of the gorgonzola. Now this wasn't hard, was it? You have to admit, it wasn't too hard.
Compared to the kind of cooking they do like at some of these restaurants,
Yeah.
which are only for chefs,
Yeah.
this is quite doable.
Yeah, it's absolutely doable. So I'm just going to drizzle this with 1 last teaspoon of oil. A little extra fat never hurt. Now we have to pleat the dough. We're going to create a nice pretty edge around the galette. So we just pick it up and then we'll fold it every 2 inches.
That's looking very good.
Doesn't that look great?
Yeah.
Now I'm just going to press the pleats here just so they'll kind of anchor it to the baking sheet a little bit. Now I have an egg that's been beaten with some kosher salt. I'm going to brush the outside of the tart with this egg. And this is really important. It gives a beautiful shine to the dough. If you skip this, the dough will bake up very matte.
You knew what was going through my mind. Like, skip this step.
Shortcut, but you know what? Everything in that recipe is there for a reason. Okay, that looks so pretty. That looks good. Now we'll just sprinkle the dough with a little bit of kosher salt just to give it a little bit of crunch. And then I have an oven at 400 degrees. I put a baking stone in there. That'll help the bottom of the crust get nice and crisp.
Okay.
So it's heating at 400. I'll turn it down to 375, and then we'll bake this for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
So our galette is out of the oven. It smells good, doesn't it?
It also looks great.
Yeah, it does. It's been resting for 10 minutes. A couple tablespoons of parsley, just to make it even prettier than it already is.
When I was growing up, all I got was like overcooked zucchini.
Yeah, or
Well,
some.
why is it that I didn't get this? That is really good.
I love the crust.
Well, I mean, vegetarian cooking is very hard because you don't have the benefit of easy flavor. You have to develop flavor, and this is
Right.
excellent. So a great mushroom and leek galette starts with the pastry, which uses little whole wheat flour and large pieces of butter, and you folded it much like with puff pastry. Some leeks that were sauteed, we had some mushrooms, and then some gorgonzola cheese. The whole thing in the oven on a preheated stove for about 40-45 minutes at 375. So from America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, an outstanding recipe for mushroom and leek galette with gorgonzola. Now, I do know what to do with this, a meat cleaver, which is to chop through meat or chicken, but when it comes to the vegetable cleaver, I'm not quite as clear on the concept. So that's why I'm here in the Equipment Corner with Adam Reed to explain to me how to use a vegetable cleaver and which one to buy, if I should buy any.
Well, you know, Chris, when you hear the word cleaver, most of our viewers are probably familiar with this knife you were just holding up. That's a big, heavy, squared-off meat cleaver that you use to chop through meats and some bones even. Vegetable cleavers may be a little bit less familiar. So we gathered 7 different styles of vegetable cleavers. The price was a low of $30 to a high of $190. And one question that we went into the testing with is, how do they compare to this, which is our favorite Western-style chef's knife? Now, there are a couple of different styles of these vegetable cleavers. This is the Chinese style of vegetable cleaver, and you can see that it looks a little more like the meat cleaver. It's got a very tall blade, usually 3.5 inches, and a little bit more weight and heft than these 4, which are Japanese style vegetable cleavers. And these can be further broken down into 2 styles. First is the Yusuba, and you can see that it's sharpened on just one side of the blade. The other side is straight down.
Why would you only do one side?
It's about the vegetable pieces sticking to the knife. This is a very popular knife with chefs, and the vegetable pieces are supposed to slide right off as you cut them. The second style is this type. This is called the Nikiri, and it's sharpened on both sides of the blade. So let me have you try a couple of these. Those are celery root. Why don't you try this Chinese style cleaver first? We did really hard vegetables like quartering butternut squash. We sliced potatoes, we minced parsley, and we chopped up onions with these. And these big heavy knives, the larger Chinese style,
Yeah, I like it.
testers really like these for harder vegetables like the celery root you were just working on. Now why don't you try that lighter Japanese style knife with that?
Yeah, it's fine. I would say for something that's large and sort of hard to cut through, the heft of this is
exactly.
a little better.
Now, Adam, why don't you try both of those knives on the potatoes, too? One of the things that made a real difference to our testers was how thick the blade was and the weight of the knife overall. We actually took a caliper and measured the spine, which is the top of the blade here, and most of these fell between 2 millimeters and 3 millimeters thick.
This is more maneuverable. Sports car, pickup truck.
Exactly.
So, and it's something really large, like a butternut squash, I can see the benefit of this, but overall, this feels...
That one feels a lot better for
nice.
lighter, more delicate work.
Yeah.
And that is, in fact, our winning vegetable cleaver. This is the Mac. It's a Japanese style, it's Nakiri style, so it's sharpened on both sides of the blade. It's the Japanese series 6.5-inch Japanese vegetable cleaver. It was $95. It felt razor sharp, it felt light, it felt nimble. The spine was a hair less than 2 millimeters thick. Testers just loved this knife.
So I feel all of a sudden awakened to the possibilities of the vegetable cleaver. I'm going to go out and buy this right now. It's called the Mac. It's the Japanese style, and it's $95. Does a great job. So I thought I'd update you on my latest cookbook project.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I think you should be co-author.
Yeah?
It's vegetables and bacon.
That's awesome.
It's your
You're
favorite two
vegetables
things.
and I'm bacon.
Bacon and bacon. So, I mean, seriously, the problem with vegetarian cooking is everyone's used to meaty flavor, which is easy to cook. Vegetables, you have to do a little more work.
But that is one of the problems with a hearty vegetable soup. It's very easy to create a soup if you're using some sort of meat broth, like a beef broth or chicken broth, and you're using pieces of meat in there for texture. You're going to get a lot of good richness. But what happens when it's all vegetables? Can you get that earthy, rich flavor and texture? Well, it turns out you can if you add a couple of secret ingredients. So,
And bacon being one of them.
bacon is not one of them, believe it or not. I'm actually going to make this bacon-free, all right? So what we've got in our Dutch oven here is 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And that butter is actually the first step in creating some nice, rich flavor. We're starting off with leeks. This is 1.5 pounds of leeks that we've cut into 1/2-inch pieces, both the green and the white parts. And leeks are great because they almost give that buttery texture. All right, so that goes in. Now we've got a little bit of carrot. This is 2 carrots. We've also cut these into 1/2-inch pieces. And 2 ribs of celery into 1/4-inch pieces. We don't want big pieces of celery in our soup. All right, so I'm just going to toss this real quick in the butter, get it nicely coated. Now let's get some more flavor into that pot. And that's one of the problems with vegetable soups as well. They can be overly sweet. There's tons of sugar packed into vegetables, so we need to balance out these flavors. And the first thing I want to add is a little bit of wine. This is a 1/3 cup of dry white wine. Something like a Sauvignon Blanc would work perfectly here. It's not too sweet. I've got 2 teaspoons of salt goes in there. And now the first of our savory ingredients. Now, remember, there's no meat broth in here, no meat at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce. This is 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. We just need to cook these until the celery is nicely softened and all that liquid has evaporated. And that's going to take about 10 minutes. So I've got 8 parsley stems here, sprigs and all, and 4 thyme sprigs, and a bay leaf. Just going to make a little herb bundle. It's good if you can kind of hide the bay leaf in there so it doesn't escape. Just a little double knot. All right, so we're going to add that in a little bit. Now, our other savory component there, we have the soy sauce in there, and similar to soy sauce, this is porcini mushrooms. They also have those glutamates. Actually, porcinis have a ton of them. So they're going to add a lot of savory flavor, and this is an 1/8 ounce of porcini mushrooms. Just about 10 to 30 seconds should do it until it's a nice meal. There we go. Yep. Nicely ground. Now I just need 2 teaspoons. We don't want too much of that porcini flavor in there, otherwise it'd be a mushroom soup. All right, so that's smelling good and the celery is nice and softened. So we're gonna put the bundle right in there, along with our porcini powder. Shake, shake, shake. So I've got 6 cups of water here. All right. Also, we're gonna add 4 cups of broth. Now you can use vegetable broth like we have here, or if you're so inclined, you can actually use chicken broth.
That would be me. Yeah.
Yes, you're so inclined?
Yeah.
How did I know that about you? All right, so for a little bit of added flavor, I've got a smashed garlic clove goes in, and a little bit of garlic goes a long way. And we want to crank this up to the boil. Now, We've got our flavors. We've got nice savory taste in there. All the vegetables are softened. We want to add some texture in there, some meaty chew. What we prefer is a ½ a cup of pearl barley. So we're going to add this right in here and bring it all up to the simmer. And this is 1½ pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes, cut into 1/2-inch pieces. We also have 1 turnip. We're going to cut this into 3/4-inch pieces. Now, our last vegetable, we need about 1½ cups of cabbage, cut into 1/2-inch pieces again.
Okay. Meanwhile, we can talk for just a minute about how to add meaty flavor to recipes where there obviously is no meat, as in this soup. So you've all heard of glutamates, as in monosodium glutamate, which is a concentrated form of glutamate. That has that umami taste, which is meaty. And there are lots of foods that have high levels of glutamates in them, like soy sauce, fish sauce, even cheese like Parmesan. They all have a lot of glutamate. So if you add these sorts of things, tomato paste as well, to a dish, you get some additional meaty flavor. There's something you probably have not heard of, which is nucleotides, and they also have meaty flavor. Anchovies have a lot of that. Dried porcinis have a lot of that as well. So here's the test we did. We had some water. We added MSG, which is glutamate, to 1. We added a powdered form of nucleotides to the second. And the third glass, we had 50% glutamate, 50% nucleotides. Here's what we found. The combination of these two amped up the meatiness 3 or 4 times. So glutamates have meaty flavor, nucleotides have meaty flavor. When you combine them, they work together to give you really big meaty flavor. In this recipe, we're using a combination of soy sauce and also dried porcinis. So glutamates, nucleotides together gives you 3 or 4 times the meaty taste.
All right, so this is up to a full boil. So I'm going to reduce the heat down to medium-low. And I want to partially cover the pot. I'm going to leave a little bit of a crack here, let some of that steam evaporate, and the flavors will concentrate. Now, the pearl barley needs about 25 minutes to get a head start of cooking before we add the potatoes and other vegetables.
Okay.
All right, so it's been about 25 minutes. Now we can add the rest of our vegetables. So in go the potatoes, the turnips, and the cabbage. Well, you know how a lot of soups, they'll add a pesto or something at the very end in order to give it some flavor.
What's that butter doing?
Yeah, well,
he may ask.
We're going to add some fresh herbs at the end. But, you know, one of the things that we found from some of the cookbooks, especially the Irish cookbooks, is that they add butter at the very end to kind of give their soups a nice, rich flavor and texture. That's exactly what we're going to do here. And it's optional. So you can opt out if you like, but I'm going to opt in. So we've got 6 tablespoons of softened butter. This is a tablespoon of minced thyme, goes right in there. And how about a little bit of lemon? We've got 3/4 teaspoon of grated lemon zest and a 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice. Just a little bit goes a long way. Just going to add a pinch of salt to season it. And just take my spatula and mash it all together. And that's why you have to work with softened butter. All right, so we just need this to come back up to the simmer, and then we'll cook it for another 18 to 20 minutes.
Great.
All right, so the potatoes are tender and the barley's tender, so we are done cooking. So I'm going to turn off the heat. We can add our last-minute ingredients. Now, this is a cup of frozen peas, and most people think that peas have to cook for a long time, but actually the frozen things just really need to be warmed through. We're also going to add a teaspoon of lemon juice just to brighten things up, and 3 tablespoons of parsley. Now, doesn't that look good? Yeah. That is one hearty vegetable soup. And good to go. All right. We have the herb butter. You're going to take a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll take a couple of croutons, though.
It has a good base of flavor, which a lot of vegetable soups don't have. I like the barley, and it gives a little texture.
But it has that savory presence, definitely, even though it's all vegetables in here.
So today we tried to solve the problem of adding meaty flavor to a vegetarian soup, and we did that with dried porcini powder mixed with soy sauce together. Actually boosted that umami flavor, some barley for texture, and ended the soup with that little herb butter mixture. So there you have it, from America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, a great recipe for homemade vegetable soup. You can get this recipe, all the recipes from the season, tastings, testings, and view selected episodes at our website, americastestkitchentv.com. Great job.
Thanks.
Let us help with dinner tonight. Visit our website anytime for free access to this season's recipes, taste tests, and equipment ratings, or to watch current season episodes. Log on to americastestkitchentv.com.
The complete America's Test Kitchen TV show cookbook includes every recipe, tasting, and testing from all 13 years' shows, including this season. With over 850 recipes, it's our most comprehensive collection ever. The cost is $29.95, $10 less than the cover price. You will also receive this 4-DVD set, a $39.95 value, featuring all 26 episodes from this season at no additional charge. To order, call 1-800-831-8315 or order online at americastestkitchentv.com.
America's Test Kitchen is brought to you by DCS by Fisher & Paykel. America's cooks rely on innovation and culinary precision. DCS by Fisher & Paykel, offering premium indoor and outdoor kitchen appliances. Cooking.com, an online retailer for the kitchen enthusiast. If it's not in your kitchen, try ours. From our family to yours, fresh from the field, Foxy organic vegetables. Kohler. Diamond Crystal Salt, the gourmet choice. Wente Vineyards. And by Lee Kum Kee.